I ask you, if I give you an algebra problem and said solve for x, what's your goal when you're solving for x? Isolation, right? We want to get x by itself. We want to get x alone. So I'll just give you a nice, simple, easy one. If we have x squared equals 3.182, what would you do what do you want to get rid of? The square. And how do you get rid of it? On both sides, right? So we're going to square root on both sides. And what do we always remember goes in front of a square root? Okay. And so we will have x by itself, and we will have the plus or minus square root of 3.182, which we would grab our calculators out and figure out what that value is without too much difficulty. Okay? So you're going to type that in, boom, 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 you'll have your answer. So it turns out to be what? Square root, whoops. Oh, thank you. What? Say it again, Doug. 1.784. Plus or minus 1.784. Okay. In a similar way, if we have the sine of x equals 3.182, we want to get x by itself, so what do we want to get rid of? Sine. Well, the way to get rid of a square was with a square root. How do you get rid of a sine? Okay. Okay. Cosine doesn't get rid of sine. CSC does not get rid of sine. Those are reciprocals, not inverses. A reciprocal, you don't divide by sine either. Okay? You do what's called the inverse sine. Okay? So the inverse sine is this. Arc sine is the inverse sine, and you do that on both sides. So arc sine around regular sine and arc sine around 3.182.
Is it like taking a log of
Kinda, like when we were trying to get like get rid of e. Okay, now arc sine is 6 letters. That's too long to fit on a calculator button, so they came up with something different. And instead of arc sine, they use sine inverse of regular sine. And so sine inverse of 3.182. So on the left side, on the x side, the sine inverse cancels out the sine. So you have x by itself. And on the right side, okay, you'll type that in to your calculator. If you do it right now, you should probably get error. You want to check it a minute? Okay. All right. That's because your calculator is in what mode? Okay. Switch your mode button back to radian. Try it again. Still says error? Even in radian? Oh, I know. It's because I picked a number that was bigger than 1. It only works for numbers smaller than 1. Okay, so just change. We can fix this. Just change the 3 to a 0. Okay, so fix your notes. 0, 0, 0. Okay, switch it back to degree because I don't want you to mess up your quiz. Okay, your quiz has to be degree, so please change your calculators back to degree. All right, now that we're in degree mode, what is sine inverse of 0.182? In degree. What? Okay. 10? Okay. Sine inverse 0.182. Did you change it back to degree mode? Change it back to degree mode.
What is that like changing it from degree to radian?
We're gonna chapter 5. Okay, next example. All right, next one. Let's solve cosine of x squared. Okay, cosine of x squared equals 0.875. Okay, what do we want to get rid of? Yes. It has to do with the domain, which I haven't learned about yet. It was my mistake for picking a number that was higher than 1. You'll understand in chapter 5. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll come check your calculator, okay? Okay, what do we want to get rid of first? Cosine. What do we use? Inverse of cosine. So that means x squared would be the inverse cosine of 0.875. Don't type that into your calculator yet because x isn't alone. Wait until you have x alone. Okay, now, how do you get x by itself? Okay, so then what goes in front of every square root? So the plus or minus square root of the inverse cosine of 0.875. Okay, now that you have x alone, you can type that into your calculator. And then we hopefully are all getting the same results. So you should be getting plus or minus square root, or no, plus or minus 5.381. Okay, our last example looks like this. Tan squared x equals 0.932. Actually, tangent will work with a number higher than 1, so let's get wild and crazy. Okay. All right, what do we get rid of first? The square first. Okay, it's the square first. The square is written there. We have to get rid of it before we get rid of tan. Okay, because if you got rid of tan first, just even look what happens. If you got rid of tan first, you'd have just like that square hanging out right there, and that doesn't really work. So we want to get rid of the square first. So we will use the plus or minus square root. So what that will do is get rid of the square, and we'll have tan x. And then we'll have the plus or minus square root of 3.932. Then I get rid of the inverse. So x by itself would be tan inverse. And the plus or minus is now on the inside, 3.932. You'll have to type that in separately into your calculator. So you'll have to do the tan inverse of the positive one and get an answer. And you'll have to do the tan inverse of the negative one and you will get the answer. Sometimes those answers will be like plus minus opposites of each other, but other times they won't. And so don't just take it for granted that typing in a positive would guarantee that what you would have. So check the tan inverse of the positive square root first, 3.982. I got 63.383. Then try the tan inverse of the negative, 3.982. Okay, and this one did happen to work out, but do not assume that that is going to be the case.
If it doesn't, then just
Okay, then you write both of them. Right, you'll have two separate ones. It's not always going to be the case.